What is going on YouTube? Is FlopFish here, and welcome to the first episode of Hut Talks. This is where I talk about everything relating to Hut, from player reviews to news in the game to just kind of general thoughts and bargain buys, stuff like that. And without further ado, we're going to get started right away into this week's episode, and we're going to cover three main topics this week. One is the defenseman situation we have currently. The other is, the typical bargain buys, because it is the start of the game, and I do want to kind of share what players have been working for me that have been fairly cheap. On a budget, they've been at least fairly cheap. And then finally, the last one is just going to be talking about kind of overall prices of the market and what you could expect it to do and what I'm going to expect it to do. But anyways, without further ado, let's get underway right into the first one, which is the defenseman position. So we're going to swap over to the defensive side of things here, and I'm going to just first and foremost say this, that there's been a lot of changes to player types this year. Well, a decent amount, not a ton, but enough to make you kind of change up your team. And it's going to be interesting because there's very few defensive defensemen. In fact, there are only 4 defensemen rated 85 overall or better in Hut this year. Those 4 defensemen, you have Johnny Boychuk and Dan Girardi as the two right defensemen who are 85s. You have Ryan Suter, who's an 89 on the left defense, and then Shea Weber, who's also an 89 on the right defense. After them, it gets a little bit more thinned out, even, because heck, there's only 6 more. There's only 6 more defensive defensemen at 84 overall. Those are Mark Stahl, Mark-Edward Vlasic, Jean Merson, Hamonic, and Paul Martin. So those are kind of your main defensive defensemen this year, and you're going to see Weber and Suter go for a lot because of the fact that there are very few defensive defensemen, and when you're trying to build that chemistry, you need to have that offensive and defensive defenseman there. So that is going to be very key to keep in mind this year, because I think Boychuk and Girardi might actually fetch a little bit of a premium, as well as any defensive defensemen that get upgraded this year, because of the fact that there's very few of them to start off, and there are some really good offensive defensemen. So just keep that in mind when you're dealing with defensive defensemen, that there are very few of them this year, as like the mainstay in Seabrook is now a two-way defenseman. So just something to keep your eye on and make sure you're kind of adjusting for that when it comes to chemistry, because chemistry does play a role. Anyways, next thing we're going to talk about is bargain buys this year. And bargain buys is something that I'm pretty excited to do. It's kind of like informal player reviews and stuff in the series of Hut Talks, because instead of doing them like all formally and stuff, I like to do them kind of just, I'll get as many as I can out like this, because that way I can give feedback in a more casual manner, and it'll just be nice. So players that I've been liking so far, I've been liking Paul Stastny. He's been doing really well. He's an 85 overall center playmaker on St. Louis, and he's been doing well. He's strong, he's fast. Like, he's not super fast, but he can keep up. And I don't think speed's going to be a killer this year. I think you need a mix of speed and strength on your team, as well as good other skills. If your player is just fast, they're not going to be effective this year. You need a player who can kind of be fast and do one other good thing, like shoot the puck really well, which is like a Gaborik, for example. Gaborik is a great player in this game. I know he's probably not going to be super cheap early on, because a lot of people want him for that speed. And heck, he probably won't stay cheap all year. He'll be one of the more expensive 86 overalls because of how good he is. He is a really strong player in this game. I highly, highly suggest you pick him up while you can. Another player that I've been liking is actually Nikita Kucherov. Kucherov's been unreal. Again, another 85 overall. I think he'll end up going a little bit cheaper than what he should be playing at, or what you should be paying for him. To put him in comparison to previous years, his overall to me would be like an 88 last year or something like that, just how he plays. He plays really well. So maybe try him out. And finally, I've been really liking as a forward, I've been really liking Nick Foligno. He's an 86 overall. Again, 86s are really tough to get this year. They're a lot tougher to get than previous years. So Nick Foligno, I've been really liking the way he plays. He's been really solid for me. Just kind of at both ends of the rink. On defense, my favorite defenseman is Morgan Riley, and at least on lefty, and on righty, it's Jakob Trouba, and it's really Jakob Trouba is my mainstay defenseman right now. He's the one that I've just fallen in love with. Goalies so far, I really haven't found a goalie I've loved. Actually, I like Frederik Andersen. I will say that. Frederik Andersen's played well for me. So he's a guy who I'm kind of interested to see if he'll be able to keep that up throughout the year. And finally, the last topic is going to be talking about the market this year. And I think the market's going to be a little bit low to start off. Like it is with every NHL, it's going to start off low. And then once people kind of realize how tough it is to pull 86 pluses, they're going to go for a lot more. I think Soud was saying on Xbox Host went for 100K. There, McKinnon's for like 15K. And McKinnon for 15K, I think is actually a fair price. I think it could be a little bit higher, to be honest, if he plays well in game. And I think that's what we're going to see is the players that play well in game are going to go for a little bit more. The players who don't are going to go for a little bit less, because it does seem like some of the 85s are getting pulled less than others and stuff like that. And since I think speed won't be as big of a factor in previous years, I think a player like Valeri Nichushkin is going to be a must-buy early on. He'll be fairly cheap. He's an 84 overall right-wing sniper on the Dallas Stars because he can shoot, he can hit, and he can skate really well. So he's a guy that I would be picking up if I were you for your team, because he's going to be a bit of a cheaper buy. Other than that, I think a guy like Carl Hagelin, I tried Hagelin out against the computers, and he was just absolutely horrible for me. All he could do was skate, and even then defensemen were catching up to him. So I think this year you're going to see a lot of the players who can do two things really well go for a little bit more and play really well. And I think you're going to see players play more to their overalls. But anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. A lot of content in one video, and it should be okay. But anyways, as always, take it easy, and I'll catch you guys on the flop side.